Now what do we do?
Plan B.
Hello everybody, this is JP3 here bringing you another entry in our Halo 4 Legendary playthrough, and it's not just another entry, it's the final entry. We're on mission number 8, Midnight. Now as I understand it, some people dread Midnight, and to be honest with you, I don't blame them. Midnight is a very challenging mission in many ways on Legendary difficulty. Especially when you throw that Iron Skull on and start proposing to do it deathlessly. I'll try to get you through it, and I'll try to show you where Midnight can be fun, can be enjoyable, and where it can be really, really nasty and really, really frustrating. Now, I would argue that the very first of this mission is probably its greatest, calling card or asset. This trench run, although derivative of the original in Star Wars, I think still holds up as being enjoyable. Certainly worth including in the game. And, what I'm doing right now probably comes from having, played it through 3 or 4 times to try to get this deathless performance. You don't have to boost through like that and go all kind of crazy with it at all. I mean, because if you do, things like that can happen, and then suddenly these turrets become a dangerous thing. So maybe it's best to just take it slow. There isn't a whole lot I can tell you about this, except for that you just have to practice it. It is at the first of the mission, so if it is something that you're struggling with, at least if you do die, you get to start at the beginning. And I guess when I say struggling, if you're struggling to get a deathless run on this mission, then, it is good that it's at the first and not at the end. But in my experience, the best thing to do is to slow down if you want to do it safely, which I'm not necessarily doing at all times here. And then just take paths of least resistance.
Affirmative, sir. Where's the captain?
And hopefully generally how these turrets work. You've got these kind of auto turrets that are kind of tough on your shields, but your armor does a really good job of resisting that, unless you've just kind of slammed into something like I did before, or been hit enough times, and then your armor can give. It's not quite the Mantis, the armor of this excuse me, broadsword. Sorry about that. And then the other turrets, they're kind of more longer and angular. Those have what I call kind of aerial mines. That's what they are, kind of like in my experience. The closer you get to them, the more likely they are to kind of swoop in and try to hit you. And they do hurt. They usually, if you get all of those mines, then you will probably lose shields on Legendary. The best thing to do is to take a nice, sharp, evasive maneuver as you get closer to them, and you should be okay. Going through this section here, again, if you kind of have it memorized pretty well, you can boost through it with very little fanfare. It should be able to make it work. But if you kind of don't know how it works, then of course take it slow. Notice how then I got hit by mines there, and that's why I'm hurting there. But notice I could take a little bit of a burst there from that auto turret, but just have to be very careful going through there and not hitting anything. That's probably the biggest killer, is boosting and then hitting some of the geometry. And there are some parts where the geometry is a little bigger than it looks. So just be careful. And as you go through here, you will eventually reach a point where you do need to boost pretty hard, because this thing does close and will close on you there. So once you're through there, though, you're pretty safe until you get out here, of course. Now the first thing you have to do when you come out here is you have to take out this big giant energy ball looking thing here. And once you take that out, then you'll have a chance to shoot out these turrets. As you can tell, it's kind of a mixed bag as to whether or not you use the autocannon or those tracking missiles. Again, it's really up to you. I tend to prefer, for whatever reason, coming through here using the tracking missiles to take out the turrets. Whenever I see that go white, I think red is the optimal, but usually I'm facing it enough to be able to get the shots to all land. And then I'll throw a couple of those rockets inside of the energy ball, which is taking out those cannons that are preventing the Infinity from getting close enough to fire on the Mantle's approach, the Didact ship. So we skip the cutscene where we do all that stuff, and we come in here with our already skimpy ammunition totals being even skimpier for the BR and for the SAW. So needless to say, the BR will pretty much be finished once you get through taking out these Watchers. The Watchers, of course, if you don't take them out, they will spawn the turrets. The turrets aren't really that big of a deal. Again, you have the SAW, so you can just kind of mow right through them, but it just, cuts down on the amount of time and ammunition, and I guess to some degree the danger. Now, right here is one of those parts where, things can go normal. You can shoot this guy to death as he's spawning that Watcher, and he die, or he can spawn away at the very last second and pretty much make this a miserable experience. A deadly experience? Not really. This battle wagon does not really rush you. He doesn't really give you that kind of trouble. And if he did rush you, of course, he'd be a danger. But the main thing that happens is that essentially, when in my mind, it just prolongs the inevitable, and it causes you to waste the very little bit of ammunition that you have left for the human weapons that you brought with you. I to this moment don't know how an event like that can occur during playtesting and it not be reconfigured in some way, shape, or form for the final product. I don't know why anyone in their right mind would think that players would find it challenging but fun to unload a pretty powerful weapon onto an enemy and have it phase away right before you finish it off. I don't know why anyone would think that was, again, challenging but fun. I don't understand that. So at this part here, these guys like to phase at you. We killed the Watcher before, they can spawn the crawlers, blah blah blah. These guys, not necessarily that battle wagon looking guy who actually, again, isn't really that big of a threat because he doesn't rush you. This guy rushes me, which is very surprising, and I find myself out of position, but fortunately with the correct weapon for such an occasion. So I just kind of throw that grenade, hopefully to ward that guy off as I recover shields. Pick up that light rifle ammunition. There is an auto sentry down there that I normally pick up pretty fast. Don't know why I don't pick it up there, except for that I was maybe ultra focused on this guy not really wanting to have to play through even the first 8 minutes of this level again. I'd hate to say it's a bad level so much as I would just say that, again, there's just too many moments like what you saw before where it just, again, it's the same thing you deal with any of the nights, really. And this level happens to be chock full of them. So again, we didn't see a whole lot of those guys phase rushing us. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. That one guy did at the end, but even if you stay back, they will phase rush. I've talked about how to deal with that before. Now, while the whole dialogue thing is going on here, you can actually take out 2 Watchers and even stop them from spawning crawlers or take out the crawlers they do spawn. Which is kind of nice to do. It essentially prevents you from being rushed by crawlers right off the bat when you come out of this portal. And we're going to talk about strategies for that whenever we come to it. So once you're done with shooting everything down there that can be shot, come on over here and fill up your light rifle. You will need it, of course. It is Halo 4 after all. And run on over into this portal. Don't... Well, sorry. Once you come out of the portal, in a little bit. Sorry. This is, I think, 5 crawlers, one of which is a crawler sniper.
I sense your malfunctioning companion. And yet, she eludes me.
Grab his binary rifle, replace your shotgun, your scatter shot with it, and this is what I was going to say. Don't move from this spot. Just don't move. Periodically check to see if that Lancer up there with the binary rifle is looking at you, but he rarely ever shoots over here. Wait for these guys to spawn their watchers and shoot the watchers with your binary rifle. It would be really lovely, and it sometimes happens, that you can kill the Lancer from here. The Lancer is by far the most dangerous thing in this area. It has again a binary rifle, and it tends to love to take the opportunity to troll the hell out of you. There he is right there, but he goes back into hiding. I'm just weakening this guy, so maybe, just maybe, this commander can take a face shot from afar with this binary rifle. And yes, he can. Now this is a good example of why I love this level. There are times where when the strategies work, all that planning and execution all comes together, it's a really fun stage. It's again whenever a knight phases away at the last minute. For example, that's just one thing, but that's the main thing. Something like that happens, and then all of a sudden it turns it into a boring damage sponge, exhibit of damage sponge, I guess, I don't know. Notice I'm shooting his sword there. You can shoot his weapon, just keeping his shields, which will recharge in 3.5 seconds. Just trying to keep them from recharging, and then going to take the face shot there and finish him off. And so once we're done with those guys, that's one of the hardest rooms in this game, in my opinion. This is what I would advise you do. I would advise you make sure and get plasma grenades and take the incinerator cannon, and take the carbine. The reason why you take the carbine is because it has a lot of ammunition, and you're about to face off against a lot of crawlers in a little bit. So we're going to be essentially just, dropping this carbine. It's not for this room, it's for the other room, the big time crawler room. And we're going to use his light rifle that we just took from him after assassinating him from behind. Hopefully no assassination animation occurs for you. You don't want these crawlers rushing you while you're in the middle of kicking ass, which is exactly what this game likes to do for some god-awful reason. So notice how we got the grenade there from the dude back there that could barely see us. I'm just picking that up to kind of move it closer, and I guess just out of this fear that I have that it will despawn. I don't think I've ever had that thing despawn on me, but then again, I tend to pick it up obsessively. So I use the incinerator cannon for these knights. it tends to work pretty well, as you would imagine. You can save it if you want, but there's a guy down there with an incinerator cannon that we're going to take out, and he'll have 4 shots when you pick it up that are inside of it. So you start with 6 full, and so you'll end up with 4. So I guess the optimal way to use this is to make sure you have 2 rounds, whatever you want to call those things, remaining, and that way you'll have a full amount. You don't need a full amount, though, but boy, it sure is nice. And long story short, I don't think we leave here with a full amount, and you'll see why soon enough. So we're playing a little game here. We've got 2 knights down there, one of which is a commander and has a very powerful weapon. One that we're going to use against the knights as much as possible in this level. I would say that the middle to end game of this level, and this guy just totally flanked me by surprise. That can happen. There's nothing unfair about that. You just have to watch your minimap. But notice how I took a hasty shot with this incineration cannon, and I didn't just let it reload just then. Unfortunately, the Knight Commander does not die. He's the only thing in this game that isn't a tank that doesn't die immediately to the incinerator cannon. Notice what I did there. Messed up. I hit him just then, but he phases off, which is, again, the most god-awful thing that they added to this game. By far, it is the worst part about dealing with knights. But because he's taken 2 shots, he finally goes down to just 1 there. So I only have, I think only had 1 round left, so I left here with 1 less than what would be max. Admittedly, that first shot against him was hasty. The second shot should have killed him, since the first shot hit him as well. But he phased off, and for 3.5 seconds, and his shields were recharged. So we're just going to spam the light rifle. And I'm going to tell you right now, as I've said before, when you're dealing with knights and you have the light rifle, which is, you always are going to have it available, pretty readily available. If you ever get in trouble, or if there's any strats I use that you can't get or can't seem to get to work, fall back on that strat, spamming the light rifle. You'll see at the very end where that comes into play. So as soon as you come through this portal, run up. As soon as this Lancer phases in, be ready to shoot him. He has a binary rifle, which means he's absolutely and utterly no joke. And so put the carbine down. You're not going to use it here. You're going to use as much light rifle ammunition as you can until you run out. Then you start using the carbine. This is why we didn't bring the light rifle, because the light rifle shoots 3 shots. You only need 1 of them to land to kill these crawlers. And so its ammunition, when you bring it in here, is whatever 108 divided by 3 is. And off the top of my head, I don't have it. So again, long story short, best to bring the carbine. That way you don't have any fears of running out. I mean, I guess you could set back and let your auto turret, and when the Cortana turns the turrets on in a little bit, you could let that stuff kill them, but that would take forever to do. And, of course, there's bolt shots and things that you can use as well. So, if you really want to bring another weapon, if you got something else in mind, then, feel free. But in my opinion, I think the carbine is best, simply because it has the most headshot weapon ammunition. I guess more bang for your buck in that regard. Coming out of that cool weapon room that reminds me a lot of that weapon room in the Halo 2 level Uprising, if you remember that at all. The Covenant were collecting some human weapons. The Brutes were, along with some of the Covenant weapons. Anyway. So notice how we're already almost out of the light rifle that was in this case. If we had brought another light rifle with us, of course we'd have more. But again, my strong advice is to have that carbine with you. Unless you want to use the bolt shot or wait for these turrets to destroy them all, which can take a very long time. I guess the main thing you don't want to do is to not have plenty of ammunition for whenever it's time to pick up Cortana and get out of here. This is essentially a holdout section. You're on a timer. There's no way to speed this up. And once the timer stops and you pick up Cortana and get set to leave, and not necessarily all of those things needing to happen. I think mainly once it says when Cortana's ready to be picked up, the crawlers, the spawns of the crawlers become infinite, and they are truly infinite. They will not stop spawning until you pass those two you see those two yellow pillars down there, until you pass that. And then they stop spawning. That doesn't mean they all despawn though. So by the time you get to that point, you definitely want to be, you definitely want to have fought your way through effectively, not have a bunch of crawlers shooting you in the back. So this is where crawlers spawn infinitely, and on Legendary especially, they spawn copiously. There are plenty of them. They will come from behind, obviously from the side, from the front, and so just be in a position here. Just knock that guy off. But notice here, and notice how quick the reload is there for the carbine, and notice how many shots we can take before we have to reload it, relative to the light rifle. The reload time's about the same, but again, notice how many more shots you have in that carbine before you have to reload it. That's really key. Unless you're really good at using that 3-bullet hip fire spread for the light rifle, the carbine is definitely the better bet there.
Our momentum should carry us through the low gravity.
So just come over to this thing here. Don't jump on it. Don't jump into it or anything like that. Because, well, I'll come to the man cannon section later on. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that one I don't think you have to worry about. I think this is a pretty scripted, quite scripted thing here, and all you have to do is touch that thing and it starts. Now I'll admit, when I remember first playing this and seeing all this, I'm not looking up as the there I am. 2012. All this was pretty. It was pretty beautiful for the 360. I remember that very clearly, and of course, unfortunately, you're not seeing this in 4K. But playing it now in 4K with the MCC update, it holds up pretty darn well in 4K, as you would imagine. So insert Cortana here. She'll split her rampant personalities off in a very kind of strange looking way that I think the developers anticipated, which is why I think she is definitely speaking to the player there, maybe even younger players, to see that kind of may look a little weird, a little strange.
What did you just do?
She says, "I'm going to do something you're not going to like." Now this man cannon here, do not jump into it, do not run into it, just walk into it. I don't remember how long ago it was. It wasn't when I was doing the runs for this here, but I very specifically remember just essentially limp dicking that and just falling over into the abyss. So you can be pretty liberal, and I say just I guess relatively liberal with your incinerator cannon here. The reason why is because there is a case with 4 rounds in it, and then there will be a commander at the end of all this that will drop one that also has 4 rounds. The only guy you really have to worry about is the guy I just shot. He's the only crawler snipe in this area, so make sure you kill him. I generally save the incinerator cannon for the watchers, as you just saw there and as you saw before. These guys, of course, really no need to use anything but the light rifle against them. There's plenty of ammunition that's to our right. I knew that didn't reload, so I want to make sure that it definitely did. I'm not really sure why I didn't get that ammunition in the case there, except for that it wasn't, overly necessary. Notice there's a binary rifle there that the crawler sniper dropped. For some reason, I'm forgetting that the case is right there where the scatter shots are on the other side. By the way, just a point, just to make a quick point, I noticed how I went to the right first to crawler tower. I actually prefer to go to Night Tower first because it's kind of the same principle as I talked about with Shutdown. Night Tower is infinitely harder than Crawler Tower. So I'd rather do the harder one first and then the easier one second. Either way, you're gonna generally have, if you come out of the section of the initial of the if you come out of the section from before here with 5 or 6 total rounds of incinerator cannon, then I go to Night Tower. If I come out with anything less, I go to Crawler Tower. That's the way I've always done it. I, of course, generally prefer to go to Night Tower and have full incinerator cannon. Again, it's just to not waste all this time and then go over there and die. Now, I'm retreating here simply because you just never know when the Knight Commander is going to fire, even from deep, even from back there. See? And there's a lot of geometry for his round to clash into. And that can kill you, of course, just as easily as the very fast, very speedy incinerator cannon. I guess the initial blast that flies at you and stuff. So try to stay away from geometry, stay away from having your back against a wall. We're eventually going to get him. Yeah, we get him there. And of course, these crawlers are mainly just a nuisance. That's all. I mean, you can take a little bit of that splash damage at full shields if you happen to be out of position whenever the incinerator cannon round comes through. But of course, if the crawlers have whittled your shields down over the span of being there and trying to put pressure on that knight, then you obviously the less splash damage you can take, and you don't want to get in the business of dying to the incinerator cannon just because of a stupid crawler with a bolt shot or a suppressor. So come over here and refill your light rifle ammunition. Be sure and go over and grab the ammunition that the knight dropped there from his incinerator cannon. There is another case of incinerator cannon at this section here. So be sure and keep that in mind. So notice how I have a full amount. I fire that up there and he moves at the very last second. I'd like to blame the game for that, but that is on a timer. It takes him X amount of time to do that, so I don't think that was cheating or anything like that. That just was me firing it a little bit too late there. But it's okay. Again, we're going to run into a case that has 4 rounds in it. So if you leave here, or I'm sorry, if you leave here and before you go to that case, all you need to do is have 1 round in the chamber and 1 round in reserve, and you will come out of here with full incinerator cannon, which you really want to do for Knight Tower. Really, really, really want to do. It's not 100% necessary because, again, going back to what I said before, when in doubt, spam the light rifle. And that works in a lot of situations, but boy, it's nice to be able to take them out in one shot with this weapon. And so you can take out, presumably, 6 knights. And that's nice to be able to do. So this was the guy who got away. He was able to spawn his turret, of course. As you can see, that's what they are able to materialize if you let them live. Not that scary. So I like to go ahead and finish off all the enemies over here before I go and collect ammunition for Knight Tower. So that knight isn't even looking at us. I'm going to go ahead and zap him right from there. They have a lot of trouble dodging that incinerator cannon blast, round, bulb. I don't know what that thing is. It really looks cool. I'm not going to make fun of it. And so once I'm all done there, then I'll come over here and fill up. And notice again, didn't even have to be all that judicious to make sure that I left here. I had 1 extra round to be able to leave here with. So anyway. Now I have a couple of strats for Knight Tower. Just know again that anything can fail in an instant when you have knights that can phase away at the last second. So I like to come up here and immediately get this guy. I backed into his grenade in some way that was annoying. I like to go ahead and get that guy. This is more to speed things up than anything else. If you like saving the incinerator cannon for the later guys, then be my guest. But I found it a lot more useful just to get out of this part. I've had crawler swarms make life miserable or even kill me here. Grenades coming in. It's really not a great position over there with your back against nothing. The cover's kind of weird, and they can throw grenades over the cover. You can back off into the abyss. I mean, there's no railings. Forerunners didn't believe in railings, of course. And so, yeah. These guys here, again, they don't rush you terribly aggressively like they can in some other sections of the game. I still don't like to mess around with them. Or, well, at least that battle wagon that has the scatter shot. This guy he's the first guy that I typically don't worry about using the incinerator cannon on. I got plenty of cover that I can fall back to for him. He doesn't have a weapon that's going to one-hit kill me. So, you know, we take him out fairly easily there. So we have 3 more rounds, presumably for 3 more knights. We have more than 3 knights. So we are going to take our light rifle, take the incinerator cannon, and we're going to juggle a scatter shot up there. And you're going to see why. This strategy doesn't work perfectly this time around. It never does, but it works enough to justify it in my opinion. If it doesn't work for you, stand back somewhere and shoot it with a light rifle. There's plenty of ammunition. They will literally start bringing it to you. You will see. So as soon as you activate the light bridge, ready your plasma grenade, stick him, shoot him, and he dies if he doesn't phase off like a coward. They'll start throwing grenades. That's annoying at this part. It's not usually annoying. Sometimes it gives you the chance to close the gap for a melee attack, but not here. Keep switching these weapons out so they don't disappear. This is what you're going to do. You're going to shoot these guys. They're going to throw grenades, blah, blah, blah. But one of the main things they like to do is phase over here to you. So, see, that guy is getting ready to. We just back off. He phases to my turret. I shotgun him. He's dead. 2 knights down. And what did he bring us? Light rifle ammunition. Beautiful. Alright, so this guy, let's see if we can get this guy to follow the same thing. He throws a grenade at us. Big surprise. We come back over here. I spawn the turret. I start shooting him. He gets ready to phase. I come over here. I don't see him because guess what he does sometimes? If he sometimes phases, you know, off of the, I guess, the geometry, off the floor. So he phased like down there. But again, not a big deal. So that's 3 knights down using the same exact method of just tricking them into coming over here. We go slightly away from where he was going to phase to, and then we just beat him to death with the scatter shot. So this is where things get tricky. This other guy over here, the one we just saw, I don't know if you saw him a minute ago peeking out, he's over to the, right now he's to the left if I'm looking straight. This guy, I usually get to phase over to me, but if I can't, well, oh yeah, by the way, there's 2 battle wagons that are now spawned in and ready to go. But if I can't get him to phase over, sometimes I can stick him or others with that grenade. That grenade went through his character model, and so, you know, which is totally normal post Halo 3. Not really sure why in the world grenades suck so badly, but he was standing right there. I threw it right at him, and it went right through him, and he's a gigantic, so I just can't blame myself for that. That was a really good throw, especially from afar. And any other Halo, until Reach at least, that would have stuck the guy. So I'm really, really trying to get him to come out at this point. I really, really, really want him out. There's the commander with the incinerator cannon, so I moved way the hell away from that guy because I don't know what he was doing. Like he was going to try to charge us. So the other battle wagon that's down there, I want to use an incinerator cannon blast on him, and what the fuck does he do? He phases away at the last second. 343, if you're watching this and you're still in the midst of figuring out how you want to make Halo Infinite great like Halo used to be, take note of that. That shit is never fun. It's awful. That guy was right there. He phased as soon as I put any sort of depression on that trigger. So make grenades actually effective whenever you throw them properly. This guy comes and phases down here, and he nearly did the same shit to me again. Thank God I still had to reload. Or I'd have wasted my last incinerator cannon round, and I'd have had to kill everything else by spamming the light rifle, which is much easier. So, thank not God. I promise you, if I was spamming that dude with the light rifle, the last thing he would have done was phase away. You want proof? Watch and see. Yep, it's that easy. It's that easy. If my strats don't work, the ones that don't involve what I just did, it's that easy. So, no stick swag, no skill reward there. No skill reward for carrying that stupid incineration cannon all this way. Incinerator. All that stuff not rewarded. This, however, well, this gets rewarded pretty darn well. Reload. Don't let his shields recharge. Keep shooting him. Keep shooting him. He'll eventually die. It's that easy. If there's any reason you should hate this level, it shouldn't be because it's too hard. It should be because you're trying to do something besides spam something with the light rifle. That's pretty much the only way you die. Except for, you know, the normal troll BS of any legendary level on in any Halo ever. Since I have full light rifle, I could sit here and whittle this guy down over time, but I don't have time for that crap. So the last set of enemies, there's going to be 3 of them. So you should be able to leave here with 4 rounds of incinerator cannon. 1 in the clip, 3 in reserve. So, you know, you have some insurance, I guess, if you miss one of them, which I tend to. And do in this playthrough. So this is unskippable cinematics, which is fine. I won't talk over it anymore. For what that's worth. So as soon as that happens, make sure you have a full light rifle just in case. Just in case. You probably won't need it, but just in case. And come over here to the man cannon. And get ready to take on 3 knights that all have light rifles. You can usually get that guy right off the bat. A lot of times I can get this guy right off the bat. But if I miss because it hits the geometry, that's okay. Sometimes that will kill both of them. And if it doesn't, then that'll usually do the trick. And now that that's said and done, we wait here for the finale. And I'm going to stay quiet during all of this.
Cortana. Cortana, do you read? Cortana, come in. How?
Oh, I'm the strangest thing you've seen all day?
But if we're here...
It worked. You did it. Just like you always do.
So how do we get out of here?
I'm not coming with you this time.
What?
Most of me is down there. I only held enough back to get you off the ship.
No. That's not... We go together.
It's already done.
I am not leaving you here.
John. I've waited so long to do that.
It was my job to take care of you.
We were supposed to take care of each other. And we did.
Cortana, please. Wait.
Welcome home, John.
Actual, Pelican 9-6er. We found him.
Mind if I join you?
Of course not, sir.
At ease, Chief. Feels kinda odd for you to call me sir. Beautiful, isn't she? I don't get to see her often enough. I grew up in New Harmony. Attended Corbulo Military Academy. Never saw Earth in person until I was an adult, but I still think of her as home. You don't talk much, do you? Chief, I won't pretend to know how you feel. I mean, I've lost people I care about, but never anything like you're going through.
Our duty as soldiers is to protect humanity. Whatever the cost.
You say that like soldiers and humanity are two different things. I mean, soldiers aren't machines. We're just people. I'll let you have the deck to yourself.
She said that to me once. About being a machine.
All right, everybody. Well, that is the end of our Halo 4 series. I guess, you know, in watching that again, every time I watch it, I tend to get, you know, I tend to get a little misty, and at the same time, it's bittersweet. I think it was one of the great endings to a Halo campaign, and just an absolutely fantastic parting shot for one of Halo's finest characters in Cortana. And then I get really, really angry, really, really pissed off about Halo 5's mystifying invalidation of what this was. It's not a love story. Cortana was the only one Chief could relate to. If you go back and you watch every cutscene in this game, and compare how Chief interacts with Cortana a lot, talking a lot during gameplay, versus how he interacts with the other human beings, even how he interacts with 343 Guilty Spark in Halo 3 and Halo 1, how he has always interacted better with AI. And I think that there's a lot of symbolism in that. Cortana was a possible romantic figure, possible mother figure, but perhaps more than anything, a best friend. A person he'd been in the trenches, well, a person, someone, something, whatever you want to call her, that he had been in the trenches with, as we know, so many times. And he made a promise to Sergeant Johnson to never ever let her go. Made a promise to her. So again, I hope that on some level, if you choose to go back through and play this, that you don't approach it with the idea of trying to go deathless. Or even necessarily with the idea of trying to complete it on Legendary. Maybe go back through on a normal or heroic difficulty run and just enjoy the story. Try to appreciate it for what it really was. And that's all I have. I'm not really sure what series I'll be doing next, but I hope you enjoyed this one. Please leave comments about how you feel about this ending, about how you feel about Midnight as a level, about its gameplay, about the challenges that you face in it, some of the struggles you've had, strategies you've happened upon that maybe I didn't use, or maybe ones I used that you've used all this time and couldn't believe someone else did it. Hit the notifications bell and subscribe if you haven't already. But as for now, this is JP3 signing out. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you very, 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 very much for watching. I do this for you guys, and I appreciate all of your support. Goodbye.